Koger. This is the BnK Sports Talk Show, and we're going to get things started with breaking news. Today, the Vikings fire Brad Childress. Is this a good move for Minnesota?
Well, they replaced him with defense coordinator Leslie Frazier, which that's kind of a good choice there. Leslie Frazier had been nominated for a couple coaching jobs, been interviewed, didn't get him, and then this year now he's got the interim label there in Minnesota. This is, I think, a good decision. I said in previous shows that Brad Childress was definitely on his way out. I thought it happened at the end of the year, but he got fired yesterday after Green Bay beat down Minnesota. So there's whatever you do if you're a head coach, don't get beat down by Green Bay because you might get fired the next day, as we saw with Wayne Phillips and Brad Childress. But this is a good move. It seemed like a lot of guys didn't like Brad Childress. There's reports that people hated him. They didn't want to play for him. And you looked at yesterday's game. There was arguments on the sidelines with Brett Favre and him and Brett Favre did not get along. So this was definitely a choice that they made. They didn't like the fact that he got rid of Randy Moss. So Brad Childress kind of made his own grave, and he was buried yesterday.
I agree with you. Ziggy Wilf held on to Brad Childress for a couple of weeks, and in these past couple of weeks we learned that the Vikings are not a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're, even with the firing of Brad Childress, I think it's too late for them to make a push for the playoffs. But like you said, the team did not like Brad Childress. The fans did not like Brad Childress. They were chanting yesterday that they wanted Brad Childress out. So this was the right move for the organization, if nothing else. I don't think it's going to help them this year. I don't know that it's going to be a turnaround like what Jason Garrett's doing in Dallas, because Minnesota's still got some tough games coming up. I think, their season is pretty much in the books. But, for the fan base and for the team and just for the locker room, I think it was the right move to fire Brad Childress.
Did Brett Favre cost Brad Childress his job, and what do you think is the future for Brett Favre going forward?
I don't think Brett Favre cost Brad Childress his job. I think Brad Childress did that on his own. The fact that Brett Favre is having the kind of year that he's having didn't help Brad Childress keep his job by any means, because he's not helping the team win football games. As for the future of Brett Favre, I don't know that he's going to finish out the rest of the year. I don't know if I'm the Minnesota Vikings and your season is already, you're not making the playoffs, you might as well, start with what you're going to go with next year and start getting, whoever you're going to have in at quarterback some snaps. And Brett Favre's body is just, he's getting too old, and I think it'd be better for Brett Favre also to sit out the last part of the season.
If this is anybody else but Brett Favre playing on this type of team, you would have benched him already. But because it's Brett Favre and he has this aura about him, of him being a Hall of Fame quarterback and who he is, and this streak of consecutive games, that I think nobody really wants to say, hey, Brett, you're benched for this game, and in that streak by themselves. And I think if it was anybody else, Brett Favre would have been benched a couple weeks ago, because he's definitely inconsistent. He's leads the league in picks. He has not played very well all season long. I think him going forward, you're right. I think eventually he's going to sit down. He could retire here in the middle of the season. The Minnesota season is lost. As far as him costing Brad Childress his job, I think that's 50-50 right there, because a lot of other players didn't like Brad Childress, but Brett Favre in particular, we know that him and Brad Childress didn't get along from last season even, but it was more hush-hush a little bit more last season because the team was winning. This season, not so much, and it grew bigger. But so it's 50-50 on, I think, whether Brett Favre really cost a job, but Brad Childress also made some mistakes along the way that cost him his job.
And staying in the NFL, a couple of the big games yesterday, the Eagles beat the Giants and the Patriots beat the Colts. Which one of these is more impressive of a win?
Well, they're both good wins for each of those teams, but I think the more impressive team is the Patriots. The Patriots still continue to win games, and to me, they're getting back to what they used to be. Remember when they win all these Super Bowls, you didn't know who they had. You only knew it was Tom Brady, and they had a bunch of other guys that were just, who are these guys? And it seems like that's what they're doing. They didn't win a championship with Randy Moss when they were throwing it deep in. Now they're going back to that dink and dime stuff. Tom Brady does one of the better jobs of giving what the defense, taking what the defense gives them, and he did that last week against the Colts. Colts did make a little late run to make that game interesting, but for the most part, the Patriots kind of handed it to the Colts, and I think the Patriots was a little bit more impressive win yesterday.
I agree with you. The Eagles game, they were playing a much better defense. The Giants put pressure on Michael Vick, and the way that they still pulled that game out, it was impressive, but there was a lot of mistakes on the Giants side. The Patriots, it was more impressive of a win to me because these two teams, it's a hyped up matchup every year. Everybody, when the season starts, they look for what week the Patriots and the Colts are playing each other, that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning matchup. And when the Colts start, leading a comeback and they get the ball with under 2 minutes to go and Peyton Manning is driving the field, it's impressive to me that the Colts don't win that football game. It's impressive that the Patriots defense stepped up and held on in Foxborough and stopped Peyton Manning from leading that game-winning drive.
Craig, Jimmy Johnson won his 5th straight Sprint Cup Series. How impressive is that?
This is very impressive. NASCAR, there's a lot of competition. He was going into the final race. He was not in first place going into the final race. He's the first person to win the Sprint Cup when going into the final race, not in first place in the past 7 years. So, it's pretty impressive that one guy can win 5 in a row.
You're exactly right. Anytime anybody wins in any sport, whether it's horse, basketball, football, anytime you win 5 years in a row, that means, you're the best at what you do. You know what you're doing down the line. This ranks right up there, it's more than a dynasty. This guy's going through a tear, and, there doesn't look like there could be any stop to him. This year was the closest. He had to come from behind. He usually has it wrapped up going into the last race, but this year he was behind, and he was able to come back from behind. And the tough challenge, you tip your hat to Jimmy Johnson. This is his 5th straight. It's impressive. If any other sport is just as impressive as any other sport, is even in NASCAR. Like I said, it's who knows when we're going to see this ever again, or if we'll ever see it again in any sport. Because I don't think any team's going to win five years in a row. And this is you tip your hat to Jimmy Johnson.
And getting back to football, a couple of teams having some close wins lately, the Jets and the Jaguars, but both of them sit with a tie atop their division. Can both, if either one of these teams hold on to their division?
I think maybe the Jets can if they play the Patriots one more time. If they can beat the Patriots in Foxborough. I'll tell you what. Looking at the Jets, man, Mark Sanchez is growing up. He's making good plays for his teams. He's winning games for his team. He's not causing his teams to lose, and he's not just managing. Remember at the beginning of the season, we said as long as he can manage the game and not cause turnovers, the Jets will be all right. Well, you know what? He's winning games. He's found a good connection with Santonio Holmes. The last 3 games, Santonio Holmes kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime against Detroit, game-winning touchdown. The last 2 weeks against the Browns and the Texans yesterday. I definitely think the Jets could, if they can beat the Patriots in New England in a couple weeks, they'll win this division. The Jaguars, you know what, they've got 2 close wins the last weeks, but it hasn't really been against the toughest opponents, the Texans and the Browns. Jaguars, they still got to play the Colts, and I think the Colts will win that division. They're just the better team.
I agree with you that the Colts, I think, are going to win that division. Jacksonville, they are a good ball club. I think Tennessee has fallen off, so I think this division race is going to come down to the Colts and Jaguars. But, I don't go against Peyton Manning in a divisional race. I think the Colts, have the tools around Peyton Manning that they can still win out that division. The Patriots and the Jets game, I agree with you that if the Jets can beat the Patriots in that upcoming game, that they can win that division, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Patriots are going to win that game at home. They're going to split the season series. I think the Patriots will win that division. I think the Jets will get a wild card.
All right, switching it up a little bit. Vince Young walked off yesterday on the Texans, on the Titans. Is he done in Tennessee, or is he still going to be the future quarterback there?
From what I hear, he's done for the year. They say, whether it's injury related or his attitude related, that he's done for the year. And, I think right now the Tennessee Titans, I think they're going to start looking in a different direction. I think this could be it for Vince Young in Tennessee. I don't know that it's it for Vince Young in the NFL. But they've had a lot of issues around Vince Young for the past couple of years, and they got a lot of good players on this team. They got good weapons, and they got a team base and a head coach that can get you into the playoffs and get deep into the playoffs. And I think right now Vince Young is a problem in Tennessee, and they gotta take care of it.
You're exactly right. It seems like Jeff Fisher, he's the longest tenured coach in the NFL. He knows what he's doing, and it doesn't seem to work out with Vince Young. A couple years ago, they had the whole suicide thing and the benching, where he, supposedly thought about committing suicide, and that problem. And then yesterday, he walked out on his team because he was hurt. He got hurt. He wanted to go back in. Jeff Fisher's told him no, so he just pretty much walked off the field. Told his coach he's not walking out on his teammates. He's walking out on him. So that relationship has obviously got to be over between him and Jeff Fisher. When asked after the post game whether Vince Young is his quarterback, Jeff Fisher said, "We're not going to discuss that." That means, Vince Young is not our quarterback. They're going to have to draft somebody. They're going to have to go get a guy in the free agent market. And here's a guy I think that they could go get. I think the Redskins will probably cut ties with McNabb because it doesn't seem to work out there. Why can't the Titans? They could go out and get Donovan McNabb in the offseason maybe if he's available, because they're going to have to cut ties with Vince Young. It just hasn't worked out. Vince Young, there's always another opportunity for him down the line to be in the NFL, you know, some as a backup or maybe even a starter for another team, but it's just over with him in Tennessee.
And moving on to the NBA, the Miami Heat lost a buzzer beater by the Memphis Grizzlies. Miami Heat kind of mediocre right now. Dwayne Wade was out of the game. How good can the Miami Heat be when one of the big three is out?
Well, really, I like to call out the big two, because where's Chris Bosh? He had the one big game. We thought, we all got a big uproar about that. And he's, you know, the guy's not, he just doesn't fit in that system right now. Without Wade or James, it doesn't look too good, because they don't really have they're not a very deep team. Udonis Haslam could be out to the All-Star break. They're not a very deep, like I said, they're not a very deep team. They don't have a bench. LeBron James trying to play this new point guard forward position. It hasn't really worked out that well. Without getting the 20 from Wade and having more pressure puts on James, and the Heat are in a little bit of a disarray right now. They're gonna have to start getting healthy, and they have to get a chemistry going, which they don't have.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Miami Heat, I mean, they're going to get to the playoffs, I think, no matter what. There's a few good teams in the East, but I don't think the East is that stacked with good teams that Miami's, you know, in any kind of threat to get into the playoffs. But as far as getting to a championship, right now this does not look like a championship team. And a lot of people said it from the beginning, you know, Dwayne Wade has a history of injuries, and how good can this team be if Dwayne Wade is not in there? And I don't know that this team can be very good without Dwayne Wade on the floor.
I think it's safe to say that the Bulls' record is safe this season from the Heat getting to it. All right, switching it up a little bit, Joey Votto wins the National League MVP award. Good choice?
Yeah, I think it's a good choice. I mean, Albert Pujols, you know, put up numbers, you know, like Albert Pujols does. But the Cincinnati Reds made a push in that division and beat Pujols' Cardinals out to make the playoffs, and they weren't picked from the beginning. You know, Pujols was on a team that you know that everybody thought was going to be there at the end, thought was going to win that division. But you know, Votto, he was top 3 in every stat, top 1 in on-base percentage in the major leagues, on a team full of a bunch of players that not a whole lot of people knew of before the season started. And they held on through the year, won out the division. He did slump in the playoffs. They got swept in the first round. Joey Votto didn't play well, but for the NL MVP for the whole season, I think it was the right choice.
I totally agree with you. Looking at his stats, he finished top 3 in all the major categories. First on base percentage and slugging percentage in the National League. 2 and 3 in home runs and RBIs. So he definitely, the guy helped lead the Reds to get the playoffs for the first time in 15 seasons. Definitely the right choice. Albert Pujols close, not even a close second. As Joey Votto got all but one first-place vote. So definitely the guy. Give it to Joey Votto this year. Quick, who you got? Tonight's big game, the Chargers and the Broncos. Who you like?
I like the Chargers in this game. The Broncos looked really good last week against the Chiefs, but I don't know which Broncos team is going to show up. And we all know how the Chargers do. You know, they start off slow and they make a push. They've won 2 in a row, and you know, it looks like they're starting to make that push. If they can win this game tonight, I think the Chargers are right back in the division, and I think they know that. They know how big this game is for them tonight. They want to be sitting 5-5 going into next week, not 4-6.
You're exactly right. I like the Chargers. Denver, they did look good against Kansas City, but that was one game. I'm not going to take that one game and make it against the Chargers. I'll take the Chargers tonight. Phillip Rivers is going passing crazy, and that Denver defense is not very good. So I like the Chargers as well.
All right, sports fans, thanks for tuning in. This is BnK Sports Talk. We'll be doing it again tomorrow. I'm Craig Koger.
And I'm Nick Botkins.
Don't forget, check us out on Facebook, BnK Sports Talk, or email us any comments and questions at bnksportstalk@hotmail.com.